Awaken Light Audio. Awaken your mind. Ignite your light.
Pursue daily excellence relentlessly. This is the real key to success. The invisible power of daily excellence. Have you ever wondered why some people keep winning, not once, but again and again, while others struggle to stay consistent, even after a big win? It's not talent, it's not timing, it's something much quieter, much more dangerous. Because here's the truth, no one tells you. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your daily habits. And if you think success is about one big breakthrough, you've already lost. The game, the real ones. They chase something different. Daily excellence. Relentlessly. The people you admire don't wake up every day feeling motivated. They wake up with systems. They move with discipline. They operate by a code. This code isn't written in books, it's carved into routine. It's buried in the invisible moments when no one is watching, when no applause is coming, when your only competition is who you were yesterday. And the best part, you don't need to be extraordinary to start. But if you start and you refuse to stop, you will become unrecognizable to the person you used to be. Let's begin the real work. Let's build the version of you that doesn't break under pressure, that doesn't need to be reminded to be great, that pursues excellence daily, not occasionally. Because if you master this, you won't need to chase success. You'll become the kind of person it can't ignore. Chapter 1. Daily excellence is the real flex. You don't need to be extreme, you just need to be consistent. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants results. But very few are willing to fall in love with the process that makes those results inevitable. In a world obsessed with extremes, overnight success, instant hacks, going viral. Grow 10 times in 10 days. The real flex is doing the ordinary every single day without anyone noticing until the results speak so loudly. They don't need you to explain the myth of one-time greatness. We celebrate the big wins, the book launch, the championship, the before and after transformation. But what if that's not the point? What if the true success story isn't what happens in the spotlight, but how someone quietly showed up every day when no one was watching? That's what the wise understand. Excellence isn't occasional. It's daily. Mindset shift from peak moments to peak identity. Think about the difference between someone who wins once and someone who becomes a winner. The former waits for motivation. The latter builds systems. The former is addicted to praise. The latter is addicted to progress. The former wants to feel like it. The latter does it anyway. Why? Because they don't aim to impress. They aim to integrate. Real story. The 4 a.m. rule. There's a world-class athlete who never posts his workouts. He trains at 4 a.m. No cameras, no hype, no hype. One day, a reporter asked, "Why train when no one sees it?" He smiled, because that's exactly when it counts most. Daily excellence is not glamorous. It's relentless. It's making your bed when no one checks. It's finishing that final rep when no one cheers. It's writing the extra page, turning off the extra screen, saying no to the extra comfort. This is not about being extreme. It's about being unshakably consistent with who you've decided to become. Because the truth is, you don't become excellent by talking about standards. You become excellent by living them quietly, daily, ruthlessly. Now that you understand the real key isn't in chasing results, but in owning your habits, we must confront the first illusion that breaks most people, the belief that motivation is required to take action. Spoiler, it is in single quotes. And in Chapter 2, you'll discover why relying on motivation is the very thing keeping you stuck. Let's go deeper. Chapter 2. Motivation is overrated. Systems win. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. James clear? Let's get real. If you only act when you feel like it, you're already losing. Motivation is a mood. Systems are structure. The most successful people in the world aren't more motivated than you. They've simply built lives where action is automatic, not emotional. The problem with waiting to feel ready? Let's say you wake up one day and feel unstoppable. You work hard, you eat clean, you read, you focus. That's great. But what happens the next day? When you're tired, stressed, distracted, most people crash. They wait for the next wave of inspiration. They live in cycles of starting strong and disappearing. But the wise, they've already decided. They've made what matters. Non-negotiable. Build a system so you don't have to think. Systems remove choice, and choice is the enemy of consistency. You need to wake up and know what to do. Not think about what to do. Ask yourself, is your morning routine automatic? Is your workout schedule sacred? Do you batch your focus hours? Is your phone off when it's time to work? If not, you're relying on willpower, and willpower is a terrible master. Real story. The artist who didn't wait. There was a writer who published a short story every single week for 52 weeks. No matter what, rain, illness, writer's block, didn't matter. He didn't wait for brilliance. He just shipped fast forward. One of those short stories changed his career forever, not because it was his best, but because he showed up long enough for magic to find him. System is more important than feeling, always. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If your success depends on how you feel today, you're fragile. But if you build a life where showing up is expected, like brushing your teeth, eating lunch, or locking your door, you become bulletproof. Motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. Now that you've stopped waiting for the perfect mood, you're ready to start mastering the imperfect moment. And that begins with a truth few people want to accept. Mastery lives in the mundane. In Chapter 3, we'll explore how the world's most powerful identities are forged, not in excitement, but in repetition. Let's step into the next layer of daily excellence. Chapter 3. Master the mundane to master yourself. The most extraordinary people you know are obsessed with doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Let's be honest, greatness isn't sexy, it's not flashy, it's not exciting. Most of the time, it's repetitive, it's boring, it's the stuff you don't post on Instagram. Why boring is where the breakthrough lives. Most people crave variety. They want stimulation, novelty, constant change. So when success feels, slow, they get distracted, they pivot, they quit. But the wise, they understand something deeper. Mundane is the gatekeeper to mastery. They brush up the same skills, the same reps, the same habits, again and again and again, until it becomes who they are. Identity is built in boredom. Anyone can be consistent for a week when it's fun, but can you do it when it's repetitive? Can you stay in rhythm when the applause stops? Here's the truth. Excellence isn't found in intensity, it's found in repetition. When you train your mind to stay committed to the basics, you develop an identity that no longer depends on excitement. To act, you don't just do the work, you become the worker. Real story, Kobe Bryant and the same shot. Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was once asked, "Why do you keep practicing the same shot over and over?" Again, he smiled and said, "Because I don't practice until I get it right. I practice until I can't get it wrong." That's what mastering the mundane looks like. It's not about trying something new. It's about becoming automatic at what matters most. Repetition builds reputation. Want to be known for excellence? Don't talk about it, repeat it. You don't need more ideas. You need more reps, more silence, more structure, more doing when you don't feel like doing. Because in the end, you are what you repeat. Now that you understand where true mastery is born, in repetition, not motivation, you're ready to unlock the next level of progress. And that starts with action. Imperfect, fast, uncomfortable action. In Chapter 4, you'll learn why waiting to be ready is the silent killer of dreams, and how the wise move anyway. Chapter 4. Start before you're ready. Always, if you wait until you're ready, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Let's cut through the noise. You're never going to feel ready. Not for the real stuff, not for the risks that matter, not for the changes that redefine you. And that's exactly why most people stay stuck. They keep planning, preparing, perfecting, but the wise, they move anyway. Perfectionism is procrastination. In disguise, you think you're being smart, that you're waiting for the right moment, but deep down, it's fear wearing a clever mask. Let's be real, you don't need another course, another podcast, or another sign from the universe. What you need is a bias for action. A willingness to step forward, messy, flawed, and human. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. Real story. The business that started with a broken website. There's a story of an entrepreneur who launched a product with a half-working website. He knew it wasn't perfect. But he also knew this: if I wait for everything to be flawless, I'll never launch anything. He hit publish, took feedback, improved in public. A year later. $1 million business. Not because he was the smartest, but because he moved first. Action gives momentum, gives confidence. Confidence doesn't come before action. It's built through action. You start scared. You learn fast. You adapt faster. Every small win builds belief. Every step forward rewires your brain. Hey, maybe I'm actually the kind of person who does this. The cost of waiting is your life. Every time you hesitate, you reinforce the identity of a person who hesitates, and eventually, that becomes who you are. So ask yourself, what would you start today if you didn't need it to be perfect? What idea, project, or habit have you been preparing instead of doing? Then remind yourself, nothing changes if nothing moves. Now that you've broken free from the trap of perfectionism, you're ready to step into something deeper and more permanent: discipline. Not the kind that feels like punishment, but the kind that frees you to live on your terms. In Chapter 5, we'll build the mindset of non-negotiable discipline and why it's the trait that makes everything else possible. Let's continue the journey. Chapter 5. Make discipline non-negotiable. Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Abraham Lincoln lets make this clear. Without discipline, your dreams are just wishes. Good intentions without structure always collapse. Most people treat discipline like an option. The wise, they treat it like oxygen. They don't ask, do I feel like doing this today? They decide once, then act daily. Discipline isn't restriction, it's liberation. There's a lie you've been told, that discipline is about punishment, sacrifice, misery. But the truth is, discipline is freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from inconsistency, freedom from the chaos of a reactive life. When you make your actions non-negotiable, you no longer live at the mercy of moods. You live by choice, not chance. Decide once, act without debate. Here's what non-negotiable means. You don't try to work out. You train. You don't hope to write. You write. You don't see how you feel. You show up. Discipline removes negotiation from the process, because every time you negotiate with yourself, you give your lesser self a seat at the table. And that version of you, he always wants comfort. He always wants to quit early. The one decision rule, a Navy SEAL once said. I don't decide every morning whether to train. I decided that years ago. That's the power of discipline. One decision made once, repeated forever. Train it like a muscle. Discipline isn't genetic, it's trained. You start small, make your bed, finish your reading, say no to distractions. Then you scale. Wake up at 5 a.m., run 10K. When it rains, say no to people-pleasing. Each act is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. Tools to strengthen discipline daily. Use a non-negotiable checklist. 3 things you do, no matter what, create friction. For distractions, app blockers, phone-free hours, anchor habits to time or triggers, not to mood track wins, not for reward, but for identity reinforcement. Sure, not trying to be disciplined, you're becoming a disciplined person. And that identity, it compounds now that your decisions are rooted in discipline. You're ready to elevate again, because the next level isn't about effort, it's about standards. In Chapter 6, we'll dive into why raising your standards ruthlessly, even when no one's watching, is the difference between being average and becoming unstoppable. Let's continue. Chapter 6. Raise the bar, even when no one's watching. What you tolerate becomes your standard. What you demand becomes your reality. Here's something uncomfortable. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because their standards are too low. They tolerate lateness. They tolerate excuses. They tolerate being good enough. And day by day, tolerance turns into identity. The wise, they refuse to lower the bar, even when no one else would notice, because they know your private standards shape your public results. High standards are a personal decision. Raising your standards doesn't mean yelling louder. It doesn't mean burning out or chasing perfection. It means this: if you said you'd wake up at 5 o'clock, you get up. If you said you'd hit the gym, you go. If you said you'd be kind, even under pressure, you stay kind. Your word becomes law, not to others, but to yourself. Real character is measured in private. Anyone can look disciplined in public. Anyone can post their habits online. But who are you when no one is watching? What do you do when there's no applause, no accountability, no audience? The wise understand this. Reputation is who people think you are. Character is who you are in the dark. The bar must remain high, especially when it's just you versus you. Self-check. Are you living below your potential? Ask yourself, what excuses am I making that I wouldn't accept from someone I admire? Where am I coasting when I should be leading? What area of my life feels stuck? And what standard have I allowed to shrink? These questions hurt, but they awaken real story. The athlete who trained in silence. A world-class swimmer once trained in an empty pool. No cameras, no fans, no music. Just him and the water. Why? Because if I can't give 100% in silence, I haven't earned the noise. That's what raising the bar looks like. Not for attention, but because your identity demands it. Warning: the world will tell you you're doing enough. Be careful when you raise your standards. People will try to pull you back. You're so intense, why can't you relax? You're already ahead of most people. But here's the truth: most people aren't where they want to be. The wise know. They aren't competing with others. They're competing with their highest potential. Now that your standards are non-negotiable, you're ready to embrace the next evolution of growth, building mental toughness, not by avoiding resistance, but by seeking it. In Chapter 7, we'll explore how discomfort becomes the gym of the mind, and how the wise train under pressure to become unshakable. Chapter 7. Focus is your greatest asset. The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Bruce Lee lived in the most distracted era in history. Notifications, no's, non-stop input. Everyone is available, but no one is present. And in this world of scattered attention, focus has become a superpower. Not because it's trendy, but because it's rare. The wise know this. If you can master your attention, you can master your entire life. The mind can't thrive in chaos. Here's the truth. Your brain isn't wired to multitask. It switches, it fragments, it burns out. Every time you check your phone mid-task, you're not just losing time, you're losing clarity. You're training your brain to chase stimulation, not solve problems. Focus isn't just about working harder, it's about thinking deeper. And deep thinking only happens when you protect your attention. Like, it's sacred because it is. Eliminate before you add. Most people try to increase focus by adding more tools, new apps, new planners, new routines. But the truth is, focus begins with subtraction. Remove unnecessary commitments, remove digital distractions, remove the need to always be available. Ask yourself, what am I doing? That adds nothing and steals everything. The wise don't do more, they do less. With more intensity. Real story, the Monk Mode Tech CEO. There's a tech CEO who runs $1 billion company and spends the first 3 hours of every day in total silence. No meetings, no email, no phone. Just thinking. When asked why, he said, "If I lose my mornings, I lose my mind." That's the power of monastic focus. Not about being unreachable, but about being unshakable in what matters. Focus isn't saying yes, it's saying no. People think focus is about commitment. It's actually about elimination. 2. Focus is to declare, these things are worthy of my energy, and everything else is not. And that's hard because saying no feels like you're missing out. But the only thing you're missing is regret. How to reclaim your focus daily. Use time blocks for deep work. No phone, no interruptions. Set 3 non-negotiable priorities for the day. 10. Create borders, work hours, offline hours, sacred hours. Ask, is this task moving me closer to the person I'm becoming? Focus isn't something you find, it's something you build. Now that you've reclaimed your attention, you're ready to weaponize it through one of the most powerful forces on earth, repetition. In Chapter 8, you'll discover how doing the same thing again and again with excellence becomes your invisible brand, until the world can't ignore you anymore. Let's move forward. Chapter 8. Let repetition become your reputation. You don't get remembered for what you started. You get remembered for what you kept showing up for. Here's the quiet truth. Repetition is how the world gets to know who you are. Not once, not sometimes, but consistently. Everyone wants to be known for excellence. Very few are willing to be excellent in obscurity. For long enough that it becomes second nature, the wise don't crave recognition, they crave rhythm, because they know this. Do it enough times, and you become it. Practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. Let's get this straight. The point of repetition isn't perfection, it's permanence. You're not practicing to impress, you're practicing to integrate, to shift your identity from someone who tries into someone who is over time. The lines blur between what you don't, who you are, and that's when transformation happens quietly and becomes unbreakable. Repetition trains the nervous system, not just the mind. Every time you repeat a habit, you cast a vote, not just mentally, but neurologically. Your brain wires for ease. Your body calibrates for repetition. Your instincts begin to shift soon. You're not thinking about discipline, you're simply living it. Real story. The pianist who played the same scales for 20 years. There's a story of a world-class pianist who, even at the peak of his fame, spent 1 hour every morning playing the same basic scales. When asked why, he replied, "Because I owe it to my audience to be flawless, even when the music is simple." That's what builds a world-class reputation. Not complexity, consistency. The world respects repetition more than talent. In the long run, the world stops asking how talented you are. It just watches what you keep showing up for. Repetition builds trust. It signals reliability, and reliability becomes your brand. You want to be seen as dependable. Repeat. You want to be excellent at anything. Repeat. You want to lead yourself before you lead others. Repeat. Make repetition work for you, not against you. Repeat what works, not what's easy. Keep a habit tracker to visualize consistency. Celebrate streaks, not outcomes. Protect your routines. Like sacred ground, it's not about one big win. It's about showing up when no one claps and doing it anyway. Now that repetition has become part of your identity, it's time to ask the harder question. What do you do when it's not working? When you're consistent, but nothing's changing yet. When effort meets silence, that's when most people disappear. But in Chapter 9, we'll explore the superpower that separates the wise from the wishful, the discipline to keep showing up, even when the results haven't arrived. Let's continue. Chapter 9. Keep showing up when it's not working yet. Most people give up, not because it's hard, but because they think it's not working. Here's the harsh reality. Progress rarely looks like progress at first. It looks like repetition. It feels like silence. It tests your patience more than your potential. But here's the deeper truth. The results are always coming, just not on your timeline. The wise don't stop when they feel stuck. They trust the process, even when the process feels empty. Success has a delay built in. We live in a world of instant feedback, messages, metrics, milestones, so when the results aren't immediate, we panic. But real growth, it's compound interest in disguise. It's invisible, then sudden, then undeniable. You go to the gym for 30 days, no change. Then, on day 45, something shifts, not just in your body, but in your belief. The bamboo principle. Did you know bamboo spends years growing underground before it ever breaks the surface? You water it, nurture it. Nothing happens. Then suddenly, in a few weeks, it shoots up feet at a time, not because it grew overnight, but because it wasn't ready to be seen until it had roots. Your efforts are the same. They're not wasted. They're taking root. What you're building is bigger than results. You think you're building a business, a body, a skill, but what you're really building is patience, grit, and no matter what mindset, the ability to trust yourself when no one else claps. And that's what makes you unshakable. Because if you only show up when it's working, you'll only succeed when it's easy. Real story. The writer who published for 10 years before anyone noticed. There's a famous writer who posted blogs weekly for 10 years before his work ever went viral. Why did he keep going? Because my job isn't to go viral. My job is to write. And eventually, the world caught up to his effort. What you repeat, you reinforce. Every time you show up, despite the silence, you reinforce your identity. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who follows through. You don't need applause to stay committed. That identity is rare. That identity is powerful. That identity is unbeatable now. You've built more than discipline. You've built resilience. You've shown that your effort isn't tied to outcome. It's tied to who you are becoming. In the final chapter, we tie it all together because daily excellence isn't just a practice. It becomes a quiet force that transforms you slowly, deeply, permanently. Chapter 10. The compounding power of quiet excellence. Success doesn't shout, it whispers until it becomes undeniable. Greatness is rarely loud in the beginning. It starts in silence. In the quiet mornings, the unseen hours, the invisible grind. And then one day, when the world finally pays attention, they call it an overnight success. But you'll know the truth. You'll know it was compounded excellence, layered daily, without fanfare, without applause, without shortcuts. Tiny wins, repeated relentlessly. It was never the grand gestures, never the once-in-a-while intensity. It was the daily consistency. Choosing the harder path when no one else would know, showing up on day 49 the same way you did on day 1, refusing to lower your standards. Just to feel safe, excellence compounded becomes identity, and identity compounded becomes destiny. Real power is built, not displayed. Look around. Those who have the most control rarely broadcast it. The athlete who trains without posting? the entrepreneur who scales quietly, the artist who creates without craving validation. They're not chasing status, they're building substance, because real power doesn't need to prove itself, it simply produces. Results. Why quiet matters. There is strength in stillness, conviction in calm, power in patience. The noise is tempting, but the wise know if you're too busy trying to be seen, you'll never become someone worth seeing. Quiet excellence is the long game. It trades applause now for respect later. Excellence feeds itself. The beauty of this journey. Once momentum takes over, it no longer requires willpower. Discipline becomes automatic. Focus becomes natural. Excellence becomes your default setting. You no longer push yourself. You're simply pulled forward by your own identity. This is the turning point where effort becomes inevitable. Real story. The janitor who showed up like a CEO. There's a story about a janitor who was so committed to excellence, he cleaned hospital floors like they were operating rooms. When asked why, he said, "Because patients walk on these floors." And excellence isn't about your title, it's about your standards. Years later, that man became the head of operations, not because he asked for it, but because his quiet excellence made him impossible to ignore. Final reflection. This is the real flex. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to prove anything. All you need is to pursue daily excellence relentlessly. Not perfection, just presence, just effort. Just today, because the world doesn't change all at once. You change all at once through the things you do without fail, without noise, without needing credit. And when that happens, you won't need to chase success. You'll become the kind of person success can't help but follow.
Thank you for spending this moment with Awaken Light Audio. If something today touched your heart or opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. What spoke to you most? Tell us about your journey, your questions. Send it their way, because light grows when it's shared. Until next time, stay present, stay awakened, and keep becoming who you're meant to be.